Some places are born from secrets. We're told history is written by the victors, but what about the stories that were never meant to be told at all? What about the tragedies powerful people tried to bury, hoping the world would just forget? All across the globe, there are places where the veil between our world and the next feels incredibly thin. This isn't by chance. It's because a darkness so profound happened there that it stained the very soil. These are sites of immense suffering, often inflicted by those in power, and then scrubbed from the official record. But the past doesn't stay buried forever. It waits in the shadows, in the cold spots, in the whispers that echo down empty hallways. It demands to be remembered. These aren't just ghost stories, they're historical cover-ups. They're the vengeful legacies of the forgotten. Today, we're unearthing 3 haunted locations that history tried to bury. From a beautiful southern plantation built on a foundation of cruelty, to a gothic mansion hiding decades of family secrets, to a beloved author's home that stands on the ashes of a forgotten asylum. These are the places where spirits refused to be silenced. Section 1, Myrtles Plantation. The ghosts of bondage. In the heart of Louisiana, surrounded by ancient oaks dripping with Spanish moss, sits the Myrtles Plantation. At first glance, it's a stunning piece of antebellum architecture, a picturesque bed and breakfast that looks like it's floating in a bygone era. But beneath that charming facade lies a history so dark it has earned the Myrtles a reputation as one of America's most haunted homes. The story starts not with a ghost, but with a fugitive. In 1796, General David Bradford, a guy known as Whiskey Dave, fled Pennsylvania to escape arrest for treason. As a leader of the Whiskey Rebellion, he settled in what was then Spanish territory and built a modest cottage called Laurel Grove. After getting a presidential pardon, he moved his family in. The property eventually passed to his daughter, Sarah, and her husband, Judge Clark Woodruff. It was under the Woodruffs and later the Sterling family that the plantation's most infamous legends were born. The wealth that built and expanded this grand home came from the cultivation of indigo and cotton, and that wealth was created by the merciless labor of enslaved people. This is the first and deepest buried history of the Myrtles. While tour guides might focus on specific ghosts, the entire property is soaked in the energy of countless forgotten individuals who lived and died here in bondage. Legend even claims the house sits on an ancient Tunica Indian burial ground, though historical records don't back this up. The most famous ghost, the one that's drawn paranormal investigators for decades, is a woman named Chloe. As the legend goes, Chloe was an enslaved woman owned by the Woodruffs. In some versions, Judge Woodruff forced her into an affair. In the more common tale, she was caught eavesdropping, and her ear was cut off as punishment, forcing her to wear a green turban to hide the injury. Desperate to win back favor, Chloe baked a cake laced with a small amount of poison from oleander leaves. The story claims she only meant to make the family sick, so she could nurse them back to health. But she miscalculated. The poison killed the judge's wife, Sarah, and 2 of their children. The other enslaved people, terrified of facing the master's wrath, allegedly took matters into their own hands. They hanged Chloe from an oak tree and threw her body into the Mississippi River, denying her a proper burial. It's a horrifying tale, and it's central to the Myrtles haunting. For decades, guests have reported seeing a woman in a green turban wandering the grounds. Then in 1992, a photo taken for insurance purposes captured an eerie, translucent figure standing between 2 buildings. The photo became famous, with many claiming it was authenticated by experts, solidifying the belief that it was Chloe's ghost caught on film. But here's where history and legend collide. Historians have looked deep into the records, and the story of Chloe just doesn't hold up. There's no record of an enslaved person named Chloe at the Myrtles. Furthermore, historical documents show that Sarah Woodruff and her children didn't die from poison, but from yellow fever, a common plague at the time. So if Chloe never existed, who is the woman in the green turban? The story of Chloe is likely what historians call a composite narrative. She may not be a single person, but an embodiment of the countless, unrecorded horrors inflicted upon enslaved women on plantations like the Myrtles. Her story survives because it speaks to a deeper truth about the brutal reality of the plantation system. The ghost of Chloe is the ghost of a history that was never written down, but she's not the only spirit here. In 1871, William Winter, a lawyer who had married into the Sterling family, was shot on the front porch. He staggered inside and collapsed, dying on the 17th step of the grand staircase. While some accounts say he died instantly on the porch, visitors to this day report hearing the heavy, labored footsteps of a man climbing the stairs, only to stop abruptly on that 17th step. The spirits of children are also common, with laughter heard in empty halls. An antique mirror in the entryway is a focal point of this activity. Legend says mirrors were covered after a death to keep spirits from getting trapped, but this one was supposedly overlooked. Guests report seeing children's figures in the reflection and find small handprints on the glass moments after it's been cleaned. The Myrtles Plantation is more than a haunted house. It's a memorial to a history America has often tried to romanticize. The powerful men who ran it wanted a legacy of wealth and gentility, but the land remembers the truth. The ghosts here aren't just random apparitions, they are keepers of a buried history, a chilling reminder that some stories refuse to be silenced. The line between history and haunting is often blurred, written in the shadows of places we think we know. If you're finding that the stories history tried to bury are the ones that need to be told, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss the secrets we unearth next. Now let's travel from a tragedy born of systemic cruelty to one born from the darkness hidden within a single family. Section 2, Franklin Castle, The Skeletons in the Closet. On a once prestigious boulevard in Cleveland, Ohio, stands a Victorian mansion that looks like it was ripped from a Gothic novel. With its stone facade, looming turrets, and grim-faced gargoyles, Franklin Castle doesn't just look haunted, it feels like a monument to sorrow. For over a century, this house has been at the center of a dark legend, woven from family tragedy, whispered rumors of heinous crimes and secrets that powerful men tried to keep locked away. The story starts as an American dream. Between 1881 and 1883, Hannes Tiedemann, a wealthy German immigrant and banker, built the 20-room mansion for his wife, Louisa, and their children. But that dream quickly soured into a nightmare. The darkness began almost immediately. In 1891, their 15-year-old daughter, Emma, died from diabetes. A few weeks later, Hannes's elderly mother also passed away in the house. Over the next 3 years, 3 more of the Tiedemann children died in infancy. The community started to whisper, was the family cursed? Or was it something more sinister? To distract his grieving wife, Hannes began a series of bizarre additions to the house. He added a massive ballroom, more turrets, and, most mysteriously, a series of secret passageways. The official story was that these were to comfort Louise, but rumors spread that Hannes had a cruel temper and that his wife used the tunnels to escape him. The final tragedy struck in 1895 when Louise herself died of liver disease. Hannes sold the house a year later and died alone in 1908. This string of deaths is the bedrock of the haunting, but what came next cemented the castle's legend. After Hannes left, the stories about him grew more monstrous. people claimed he was responsible for his family's deaths. Legends emerged of even darker deeds like the hanging of a niece or illegitimate daughter in a secret passage, or the murder of his mistress in a tower room. For years, these were just stories, but in the 1920s and 30s the house was owned by the German Socialist Party, which sparked new political rumors. Whispers spread that the house was a nest for Nazi spies, with some tales claiming a political disagreement led to a machine gun massacre in a hidden room. While these dramatic rumors added another sinister layer, historians are clear. There is no evidence to support the stories of spies or a massacre. The castle's paranormal reputation exploded in 1968 with the Romano family. They reported disembodied organ music, lights spinning on their own, and their children playing with a sad, crying girl. The activity grew so intense they brought in a priest to perform an exorcism. The priest allegedly fled, warning them to leave for their own safety. They did, abandoning the house in 1974. The next owner, Sam Muscatello, made the most shocking claim of all. In 1975, he said he found a pile of baby bones hidden in a secret closet. This seemed to prove the darkest rumors about Hannes Tiedemann, but here's the catch. Many researchers believe Muscatello, who quickly started profitable ghost tours, planted the bones himself for publicity. The coroner's report was inconclusive, unable to confirm their age or origin, but the story of bones in the walls stuck, becoming a cornerstone of the Franklin Castle legend. Today, Franklin Castle is a private residence, but its reputation precedes it. The ghost of Louise Tiedemann, the woman in black, is often seen staring from a tower window. Crying babies are still heard throughout the house, a chilling echo of the infant deaths and the contested discovery of those tiny bones. Was Hannes Tiedemann a tragic family man or a monster who buried his secrets in the walls? The house isn't telling, but it ensures that what happened within its walls will never be forgotten. Section 3, the Thurber House, Echoes of the Asylum. Our final stop is a quiet, unassuming house in Columbus, Ohio. This is the Thurber House, a museum dedicated to the celebrated humorist and cartoonist James Thurber, who lived here from 1913 to 1917. It's a place of literary pilgrimage, but the charming exterior hides a much darker history. The haunting here isn't born from the house itself, but from the tormented souls who occupied the very land it was built on. The house stands near the forgotten grounds of the 19th century Central Ohio Lunatic Asylum. Before this was a historic district, it was a 30-acre plot for the state's mentally ill. Established in 1838, the asylum was meant to be a place of refuge. But like many asylums of its day, it became overwhelmed. With over 300 patients, treatments were often crude and inhumane. The identities of the patients were largely erased. A nearby cemetery contains graves marked only by gender and patient number. This buried history of forgotten lives is the foundation of the haunting. But on the night of November 18, 1868, tragedy struck. A fire broke out, reportedly from a defective flue. Chaos erupted as the building burned to the ground. While most of the 300-plus patients survived, 6 women were trapped in their rooms and died of suffocation. A 7th died from her injuries soon after. These 7 women became the first known ghosts of this land. The asylum was rebuilt elsewhere, and the old grounds were sold for development. The house at 77 Jefferson Avenue was built in 1873, part of a new neighborhood meant to erase the memory of the fire and the asylum. But the land didn't forget. Decades later, a young James Thurber moved in. On November 17, 1915, almost 47 years to the day of the fire, he had an experience that would inspire his famous short story, The Night the Ghost Got In. After a bath, he heard footsteps downstairs, pacing around the dining room table. He and his brother then listened, as the heavy steps climbed the stairs toward them. Terrified, Thurber slammed the bedroom door just as the footsteps reached the landing, paused, and then faded away. Thurber believed for the rest of his life that the house was haunted. His research uncovered a possible source for the ghost he heard. While one legend tells of a doctor who committed suicide in the house after discovering his wife's affair, there's no historical record of this. However, there is a documented tragedy that fits. In 1904, a jeweler named Thomas Tracy Tress, who lived in the home, accidentally shot and killed himself with a gun he thought was unloaded. The pacing, the footsteps on the stairs, it seems his tragic energy is one of the most prominent in the house. Today the house is a museum, but the spirits are still active. Staff and writers in residence report books flying off shelves and phantom music from a long-gone piano. The ghost of the man is still heard pacing the dining room, now the gift shop. One writer's dog refused to go near the corner where the man is thought to have died. The Thurber house is haunted by layers of buried history. Its energy is rooted in the collective trauma of the forgotten asylum patients, with a second, more personal tragedy layered on top. The city of Columbus built a respectable neighborhood to pave over a place of immense sorrow, but the land has a longer memory. The footsteps James Thurber heard over a century ago are still walking today, a constant, chilling reminder of the lives that history tried and failed to bury. From a Louisiana plantation to a gothic Ohio castle and a humorist's home, the message is clear: the past doesn't stay in the past. These locations are more than supernatural hotspots. They're monuments to buried truths, their hauntings, a kind of historical reckoning. At the Myrtles, a single ghost legend gives voice to the unrecorded suffering of countless enslaved people. In Franklin Castle's secret passages, the ghosts of a doomed family ask whether the true horror was personal evil or secrets a society wanted to keep. And beneath the floorboards of the Thurber house, the echoes of a fire and a forgotten asylum remind us that even celebrated places can stand on a foundation of sorrow. Powerful people, corrupt institutions, and the simple weight of shame all conspired to erase these stories. They buried the bodies, tore down the buildings, and rewrote the histories, but they couldn't silence the echoes. The spirits that linger are guardians of a story, crying out against the injustice of being forgotten. They are proof that some truths can't be buried, and that history, when suppressed, will always find another way to be heard. The real question is, how many other stories are still out there, waiting to be unearthed?
The story has come to an end. If it left a powerful impression on you, please consider supporting the channel with a like and subscription. It's the best way to ensure more stories like this can continue to be told. Thank you.